would just like to address the elephant in the room that we're talking about being au natural and I'm drinking a sugar-free Red Bull. We all have our vices, okay? I don't bleach my hair, so at least I have that going for me. Welcome to another episode of A Girl Business Podcast. I'm your host, Shelby, and today with me I have Jenn. We are in the lovely Nevada City, and we are at her salon, Think Natural, where she specializes in giving anyone a haircut that fits your natural style, and also she does henna. She dyes hair with henna. So all things natural. I'm going to let you tell the girls back as far back as you want to take it, how you got to doing what you're doing today.
Okay, great. Well, I never planned to be a hairdresser, but I did have a hairdresser father and a sister, so I do come from an artistic family. And my grandmother was a painter, and my mom was a painter. Anyway, so it was part of the deal. So yeah, I didn't know what to do after high school, and I just said, well, okay, I'm going to go to beauty school, whatever. And then about 5 years into it, I got pretty ill. And it turns out that I got ill from the chemicals, lots of perms and everything. And I was specializing in color, so I was a colorist, and along with a hair cutter. And then at some point, and a colleague of mine also had the same experience, and so we had to say, well, either we quit this and do something else, or we try to figure out something new. And so in 1991, my friend and I decided we were going to open our first chemical-free hair salon, and that was the first one in the country, honestly. And from there, I just developed my techniques, and I had to, at that point, search for some chemical alternative besides regular color. And it took me a little bit of research, but then I found that the rest of the world was actually using henna. Not the United States for some reason, but
Shocker.
Shocker. But the rest of the world was using henna, and it goes back as far as the Egyptians, right? And so it's very, very old and ancient practice. A lot of times people would just do it with each other in groups or whatever. It was very much of a feminine thing to do, and I loved that. And so I just tried to figure out how to really use it in a way that would, it's not just putting on a red tone, but creating shades that were different than just red. And so over the years, over many, many heads, I found a way, and it's very, very different than chemical color for any hairstylists out there. It's just a whole different ball of wax, and you can't really go back and forth between the two. So it was really like a whole learning curve for me. And then also, just as a little bit of a backstory, I grew up in the 1960s in Berkeley as a hippie kid. And so my whole thing was, we did everything alternative. My mom made our clothes. We ate brown, like rock hard bread. All the other kids got a lunch pail, and I had the paper bag with my mom's drawings all over it, which now, of course, is sweet, but back then, you wanted to be cool. It wasn't cool. But that was my basis too, right? It was like how to eat differently, how to live more aware, more consciously. And so that just sort of factored into everything. And so the other thing too is that, okay, my father was a hairdresser. He went to Vidal Sassoon, which was a very posh thing at the time. And so growing up, I didn't have any agency with my hair. I was his guinea pig. And so I got all these Vidal Sassoon haircuts, which are quite severe. and kind of New York. And I just wanted to be like Farrah Fawcett back then, just have like the wingy hair or whatever. So a lot of times I would just sit in the chair and I wouldn't have a say about my hair. And so it also, it also developed in me this desire to find a way to really listen to what people want in their hair and how to almost heal a wound that they might have with their hair. And everybody has hair stuff going on, right? Some people are really blessed with just naturally gorgeous hair, but most of us not. And so for me, it was really like, how can I hold their private vulnerability gently and then help them find a way to love themselves more and feel beautiful inside without caking things on their hair or their face or whatever. Like, how can we take the masks off and really celebrate our own unique beauty? And one of the things that I love is that hair for me is like when you go out into nature and you sit next to a stream and you watch how the water flows around the rocks or how a leaf floats on the water or something. There's something very, it kind of has this movement that sometimes it pauses and sometimes it goes fast and, things like that. And as I look at hair, like that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this beautiful flow. And everybody's unique. It's like everybody's a different stream or something like that. Later, I found out that when wood carvers carve, they often are saying that the grain of the wood informs them of what the piece wants to be. And so they're really paring away to reveal what's in there. And that's exactly what I do. It's like I feel like I'm watching very carefully about how the hair moves. And it's like I have a dialogue or a conversation with the hair as well. It's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to say? Kind of thing. And so then I just help it to be itself like that. So, yeah. So.
You're like a hair whisperer.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's the title of your episode.
Wow. That is so awesome. Thank you.
Yes,
Oh
you
goodness.
are. You're
My
like a hair
goodness.
whisperer.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think it's beautiful that, because a lot of women have trauma around our hair.
Yeah.
And a lot of us suffer hair loss.
Yeah.
And it's such a, healthy hair in, I think, almost every culture is such a sign of beauty.
Every culture, yeah.
Right. And it's very sentimental. And I've gone through a period where I lost a lot of hair and I still don't have it back all the way. Yeah. And that was really hard.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of women that go through hair loss?
Definitely that. And also, a lot of people are going through things like chemo and stuff like that. And so yes, there's hair loss and for a number of different reasons. And so it ends up being a very tender place to address. And one of the things I also really like is I've always worked by myself, not always, not in the early days, but later I found out that I really want to work by myself because I want it to be a very sacred space where we can just be very private and intimate around that issue. And so that we can, I've had people in my chair crying and, it's not, a lot of hairdressers do this too, but this is one of the sacred tasks I feel like is part of our legacy or something, just, holding that space for people to grieve. Yeah. And then feel safe enough to kind of step out of that and like, okay, now what? Now what? Is there anything we can do? And yeah.
Sounds very special.
Yeah, I love it.
Sounds like a lot more than a haircut.
Well, it's interesting because we say that, but truthfully, a haircut is like your, it's a reflection of your insides, right? And so And so our culture, particularly in the U.S., we don't value art very well. We don't value people working with their hands very well, there's things like this. And so we tend to minimize things that are actually really quite important and meaningful. And so I think hair, yes, there's a lot of media about external validation, but in truth, it's really about our insides and our how like a different shaping even can totally transform how you feel about yourself. That's big to me. That's huge. So I try to, when I hear something about how minimal people make it, I'm like, no, it's big, actually. It's really, really profound. And many things can be like that, but just my little niche is, holding that space.
When you started to fall into your niche and when you walked away from the chemicals, did you feel like you had to unlearn most of what was taught in beauty school?
I did unlearn most of it. It wasn't right away. I think it came because I was grappling with change. And so because I learned in the hairdress, just for instance, the way of creating a hairstyle, from the Vidal Sassoon point of view, you're really forcing the hair to do something where you're commanding it. And so I think it was over time. So I, of course, did that too. Everybody was doing that then. It's like how to, style the hair and make it do what you want it to do. And I think I don't know exactly when that shifted, actually. I think it was just over time. I kept seeing how much people wanted to force things onto themselves. And because I'm super empathic, so I can feel what's going on inside of them. And so I kept being confused, like, well, why are you, I could feel all the tension and the dissatisfaction with themselves, that they were trying to force this thing on them. And I was like, well, what if we just kind of shift that a little bit? So I think it was really subtle change, but then over time I started to recognize that the more, I had some clients who just over time we figured out somehow that if they just let me do what I want, they trusted me. They would sit down in my chair and just go, oh, just do it, just do what you want, and I'd get some parameters. But if I was allowed just to play, it always ended up way better for them. They were so much more happy. They came back, they were like, oh my God, the haircut grew out great, it lasted a long time. That kept happening over and over, and I was like, oh, maybe if I just stopped trying to force everything, or just honor that I wasn't forcing, then it just all worked out much better. And then I was able to articulate, oh, that's what it is. I'm not forcing a thing onto people anymore, and therefore I don't feel that tension in them anymore. So it really came from what I was feeling from people, which was interesting. I don't think I've ever actually articulated that before, so thanks for the question.
Yeah, you did perfectly.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're the hair whisperer.
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it's so much more than the hair, about forcing things.
Yeah.
And it's kind of symbolic because the hair, that's, the very top of our body. So it's really from the top down.
Yeah.
If you're forcing your hair at the very top.
Exactly. Wow. That's profound too.
We're getting deep over here.
Yes, we're getting deep. Wow.
I think it's very, very symbolic.
Yeah.
So how was it when you started doing henna? Because that's not, henna for hair, that's not something that I had ever heard of before you called, so I'm so glad that you did.
Yeah.
How was that process? I mean, because you kind of have to educate the public on it. So what has that been like?
There's a lot of education. So first of all, let me just back up and say that if everybody knows Lucille Ball from the 50s or 40s or, all that time frame, 30s, she actually had, her famous red hair was henna. It was straight henna. So there is a little bit of a precedence. But in the 70s, there was actually an effort to take hairdressing out of the homes and into the professional stance, which is fine. I don't begrudge that at all. Trying to elevate the whole field. However, because hair color henna was part of the hair color that was done in the early days, it got really vilified. So there was all of this really bad talk on, oh, don't use henna, it's gonna break your hair, it's gonna dry it out, it's got metallic salts in it, which for a time it actually did, came from the soil from where it was grown. And so it had, it did leave the hair brittle at some times. But unfortunately, so a lot of the producers in the Middle East and India, they transitioned out of their bad practices into growing organic leaves, which is what henna is, just a henna plant. And so the product became much better, and then, of course, all around the world, Japan, China, India, just all kinds of countries and continents used henna. And U.S. was still stuck in that old, oh, it's bad for you. And the hairdressers never took the time to look for something alternative. And I think in part because our culture is very, we want a quick fix, a quick answer, a quick everything. And I think other countries are more like slow oriented. So when I first started playing with henna, I realized that actually it's more like slow, at the time I was saying it's more like slow cooking, where or farm to table kind of thing, where you really appreciate, from the beginnings and moving slowly into the end. And so it's not a quick fix kind of thing. And so it just, there was many parts of it that I was learning about henna. And did I answer the question? I can't remember now.
I don't remember, but keep going.
Yeah, okay.
I'm liking it.
And so, so with my research, with my kind of really loving the fact that it's a plant, loving that it doesn't, I learned that it doesn't strip away the natural hair, the integrity of the hair. It doesn't poke holes in the integrity of the hair, which is what happens when you use hydrogen peroxide with chemical color. And just the history of it with a lot of, both women and men honestly used it, but it became, I think, a woman-centered thing in some ways. Some cultures couldn't go out and they had to help each other do their hair, especially in like Iran or something like that. So it was just this, it just felt very organic to me, and which really resonated with my upbringing, right? And so, so over time, I learned a bit about what I call Ayurvedic companion plants, which is very Indian in nature, which is like using other plants that also have hair color possibility. So there's very few plants on the planet that will actually die and be permanent. Henna is one of the very few. And the rest of them require some, like a chemical component called a mordant, which you can't use on hair. You can use on fabric, like a lot of people who do natural dyes use a mordant. And so that locks in the color into the fabric. But you can't do that with hair because it's toxic to the human body. And so, you're sort of limited, very limited with certain plants that have enough colorant that will hold. And so, so it's just this process of learning all about that and experimenting, and over decades learning what works, what doesn't work. Oh, and the other thing that was really fascinating is that over time, when people use henna and the companion plants to get the various colors on the hair, they would just say, "Oh my God, I feel like I have my hair back." Especially people who have been doing chemical color. There's a way in which when you do chemical color and it's like wet, it feels sort of like wet newspaper in a way, or there's just a way and it doesn't feel health, or it just feels not like real hair anymore. And so people who then would transition, their hair, oh my God, I feel like I have real hair again. And then they would just have this like glow about them. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting, this glow. And then I realized, also with me just working with it, like smelling it, just mixing it, all this kind of stuff, there's a certain thing that happens. It's literally plant medicine. It's like when you work with a plant, the plant literally gives you energy back, right? Because it's organic, it's biological. And so there's like this bioharmony that happens when you use it. And so people just end up feeling really like almost high in some ways from it. I don't mean literally, but there's a way. And so I noticed this pattern over time that people were really, really excited. And so then I realized the value of bioharmony. I don't know if that's a real term or if I just make that up.
It is now.
But
patent pending.
Yeah, that feels like the thread of where I like to live, if you will, is this way, like how can we be compatible with what's in harmony with our natural state, our natural biology. And so then the upside of also is that there's ways in which henna can strengthen the hair. And, a lot of reasons why our hair falls out is because the metabolic process of the body is making excess, actually, literally, the body makes hydrogen peroxide as a waste product when our metabolism is over oxidized. So you hear all about antioxidant diets and things like that. So that's one of the things that happens is when you are over oxidized, and this is just sort of layman's terms, your hair, your scalp makes, on your body, makes excess hydrogen peroxide. Well, that's what's causing gray hair. That's what's a lot of why your hair thins or falls out, is because your body is not balanced in a way, right? So on a topical level, putting the henna on actually reduces that hydrogen peroxide and strengthens the hair follicle. That doesn't really address inside, of course, like maybe the hormonal imbalances or the toxic loads that we have in our body. But anyway, so so there's a lot of like stuff that I learned along the way. And I just kept feeling like, more natural the better for all of us, for the planet even, right? It's like, what are we pouring down the drain, right? What are we, all of that. So
It all kind of ties together.
it all does. It's all a whole thing, yeah.
So can I ask, do you make your own henna like at home, or do you have like a trusted source for your henna?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I originally was importing it from, so henna actually doesn't grow in America. Yes, it's so interesting. That was another thing I learned. And the reason is because it requires a desert environment that doesn't cool down at night. And all of our desert environments get cold at night. Whereas where it grows in India and in the Middle East, it doesn't cool down. It stays hot, and that's what it requires. So we can grow indigo here, but we cannot grow henna. So we have to import it, and so we have to find our sources there. And I don't know how many growers there are now, but I would say probably a lot of companies that provide henna here are coming from similar growers there, right? So there's probably, I don't know how many now, but when I was importing it, there weren't that many, and they were pretty large. But anyway, so I was importing for a while, and then I couldn't really, because when you import something, you import it, you buy huge quantities, and I just like, well, I don't have warehouses, and it's just me, and if I created this big business, then I might have done it. So I then started to test all the people that were importing it here, different companies, and there's not that many of them. And I try to source where they source it from. They're not always open to offering that information, of course, but that's okay. So yes, I work with 3 or 4 different companies that I feel are consistent and have a good product. And sometimes, because it's an organic or it's a natural product, it's a plant, sometimes the batches are different or off, So there's always a little bit of a variable in when I do hair coloring. I'm like, well, it's coming from a natural plant. We're not getting the same leaf every single time. So there is a little bit of variation in color from batch to batch. And so I always, you asked me earlier about the education. Yes, so when before I do henna on somebody, I will have a consultation with them that often lasts an hour, because I want to make sure that they understand that there's a lot of unknowns that happen in the color. It doesn't behave like regular hair color, and because it's natural, it does have variation to it, and so we can't predict. And so there's a level of like, okay, well, can we enter this as a little bit adventure, right? Like we'll use my 30 or 40 years of knowledge and anecdotal evidence, but there's always still a little bit of unknown till we do it the first time, and then we know what we're working with, kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot that goes in it. And so yes, I have certain companies that I've been using, one particular that I've been using for almost the whole time I've been doing it. And then I also offer like support, like if somebody wants to do it at home, sort of to honor that, going back to the women's groups where they do it for each other. I offer, I can do the whole thing here in the salon. I can do it half in the salon, send you home with half of it, or I can just support you in doing it at home, and then I give my resources. So I'm not somebody who holds that privately. I like to share my knowledge. I like to share my resources, just so that everybody can be, happy and get what they need.
Kind of taking it back to its roots.
Yes, exactly. And I feel really like I want to have, well, not only do I want to have price points for different people's needs, but I also want to really honor that ancient practice of helping each other, so yeah.
It's much needed. Women just spending time with each other, and
Yeah.
sounds very healing.
It is. I feel it's very healing. And it also, I have to be honest too and say that, I mean, I like to be transparent that it's not for everybody. It's like the range of colors isn't as great as the chemical color, and it does take time. Like, if you want a dark brown on light hair, it's going to take all day to do it, or it's going to take a good 5 or 6 hours to do it. And so it's not for everybody. But if you are willing to take the time, and if you're willing to, if you have to grow out something to transition into it, it's something that just takes a little bit more intention and a desire for well-being, I think, as the base of it. Mm-hmm. So I'll have people too come to me who have been chemically ill, or just detoxing, or like moms who are concerned about, or pregnant moms who are concerned about putting the toxicity in their bodies, or like that. So there's a lot of people who, aside from just wanting to be natural, also need to be more natural. So yeah.
Well, what a great resource you are for them.
Oh, thank you.
In that sense. And it's very apparent that a big part of your business model is going with the flow and being intentional. So was that part of the reason for your move over here to Nevada City?
Yes, interesting. So I came from the Bay Area. I grew up in the Bay Area, and it just caught, like a lot of places, it's just changing. I mean, even for the people who've lived here forever, it's changing for them too, right? So in a way, I also am trying to be very conscious about honoring the people before, right? And so, but my personal journey was that my body just needed more nature, and I needed more earth around me. And from the strangest circumstances, but the universe just pushed me in this direction, and I just feel so grateful. Even this space, I found this space. I was walking down the street, and it was just like this. The building had a for rent sign, and it just screamed at me. And I was not even thinking of having a salon yet. I was just like checking things out and looking around, and it was just screamed at me. And I was like, and I kept coming back to this space over and over again until finally this space opened up for me. So it was very synchronistic. And I'm an older woman. Who knew I was going to start from scratch at 62? I mean, wacky doodle, but here I am. And, again, it was like this big jumping off the cliff. My favorite saying, actually, is jump off the cliff and grow your wings on the way down. And that's what I found I was doing. I was like, okay, okay, I'm starting from scratch. And so, yeah, and it's been such a blessing and a joy to connect with the people up here. I mean, they're so loving and so kind, and so amazing and beautiful. I just feel like I got guided into the perfect space, and I'm just really grateful.
Do you have any big plans now that you're here and in your new space, or what are some things you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to, I'm still building my clientele. So that's this process of, I'm a little bit shy, and I'm somewhat of an introvert, and so to put myself out there is a little bit, nail-bitey. But I'm learning to trust that process of showing up and being seen. That was kind of terrifying for me, and so being seen. And so I think it's an internal process, but at the same time, I'm getting to know people, like in the city hall. I'm like, I know some people there now, and there's a way in which I think a smaller town, you have a bigger voice, which I'm not used to, right? And also in a smaller town, I feel like people are a little less guarded. And so that's been like, whoa, I'm not used to people just opening up, on the level that they do immediately. And so I guess you're asking me the plans for the future is really just finding, settling in, I guess, to my new me, and to my new place, and to my new community, and finding where my contribution to the community is, and giving back, really, yeah. And also, there was another little aspect too, is that there's so many people who make handmade things here, and so I'm hoping to have a little collaboration, yeah, like maybe somebody wants to make some awesome hair, like handmade hair oils. I mean, I know people, I've already been in conversation with some people around that. So I'm kind of excited too about like, how can I include the community with what they're doing in what I'm doing? You know, how can we bridge? Like, I can't quite figure out how to be at the farmer's market yet, but in terms of like offering something, but I like the aspect of like having connection with the people that are doing something here. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
That's exciting, like
Yeah.
a collaboration network.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been looking, I have been like joining women's groups, supportive groups, and conscious living groups, and just like trying to figure out, just being part of what's all the magic that goes on here. So yeah.
Has it been rewarding so far, getting out of your comfort zone a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I just feel so grateful. Like every single person who walks in this door is just, it's just heaven. I feel so grateful and so just like, wow, soul connection. So yeah, that's a blessing, a big blessing. Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for women that are maybe starting a business or have to start over at a certain age or joining a new community, or just on any aspect? What advice would you have?
Honestly, I think I would say really trust your heart, because your head can give you all these like fear. I can't do, I don't know how. But if you really tune into your heart, like take the space to tune into your heart, I feel like that's going to guide you in the right direction. And even though you don't have the answers, like literally, I saw the next step, and then I stood on that step, and I didn't see a step around me, and then I tuned into my heart, and okay, there's another step. So it wasn't even like a path. It was just like a step, and then you wait, and then another step shows up. So it's really just like trusting in that if it's heart-based, and you're just standing in your integrity and really honoring what your heart wants to do, then it will be right and it will be perfect. And the answers will come. Yeah.
Did you have any doubts when you decided, like, hey, I think I want to go this natural journey? Was there ever a point in time where you're like, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, maybe I should just stick to what I know?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, every step of the way, there's always the head telling you something. But I think when you tune into your heart, it forces you. It's like when you have a new awareness that's heart-based, you actually can't go back.
That's so true.
You really can't go back.
So
And
true.
so it's sort of like you're like, okay, I have to. You don't actually end up having a choice in some ways. And I was just actually having a conversation last night with this very thing, where somebody was talking about, maybe going back to their old way, but then I heard in their voice it was like this lower, depressed kind of thing, and I'm like, dude, you cannot go back. I guess you're right. Yeah, you can't really. So yeah, there's always the head. And if there's some way in which to quiet that, or just look into it more deeply, like, okay, so what is that really saying up there, and really face it, like face that fear. It will show you that, it's a big no. Your body's saying no, your head's saying no because it's spewing all this fear up there. So I really feel like, it just comes down to feeling, and we don't all have it takes effort to stop and listen, and, you might stumble, you might try something out that's not quite right. Like sometimes you do need to put things on a little bit to feel out whether it's a good fit or not, like clothing. You put that pair of pants, is it too tight? Is it comfortable? And if it's not, it's a no. Or if it's not, you grapple with it until you really understand that it's a no. So, yeah, it's a process. And I think we all find our different ways to get there. But, yeah.
Anything else you'd like to touch on or let the community know about you?
Well, we did cover a lot of things, and I'm really grateful for you asking such beautiful questions and giving me this opportunity to talk. So I guess I would just say that, gosh, I am actually really available if anybody wants to talk to me about my process and wants some support around starting their own business. If I can help in any way, I'm happy to have a conversation. And then other than that, if anybody is interested in natural hair and you're curious for yourself, like, please come and visit me. And I love to offer and share what I know and what I've learned. And so, yeah, I think that's it.
Perfect. And I'll link all of her contact information in the description. So you have your website, Jenna Whitecloud. And then you have a Facebook group for this, right?
I have Facebook, I have Instagram, and I'm on Yelp, which is old school now, but it's where a lot of people have left reviews. So you can kind of read over the years like what people have said about me. And I'm pretty available. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I would love to do a tour if you're up for it.
Okay, sure.
All right. But thank you for watching this week's episode with the lovely Jenn, who is the hair whisperer of Northern California. I love that. And I'm so happy that you called and that you trusted me to be a safe space for you in this getting out of your comfort zone journey. So I'm super excited to have met you. And
thank you.
And yeah, be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that awkward social media stuff. And let's do a tour.
Okay.
You did wonderful, my dear.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Think Natural in Nevada City, and I wanted to introduce you to my organic hair salon. Come on in. We're in this wonderful old Victorian and lovely light and all natural setting. Have our little seating area with some tea for your enjoyment, and our organic products, and a lovely branch from outside that I just adored. And then in our separate room is the little actual salon area with my chair and this mirror and a shampoo bowl. My hours, right now I'm working Friday, Saturday, and Monday, roughly around 10:30 to 3, but I'm kind of flexible. We have a big, beautiful window here too, which I love. It's just looks out onto a natural space, which is part of the beauty of this historic building. And we are located in a historic area of Nevada City too. So very excited to be part of this community. I am by appointment only, and the best way is to get in touch with me. You can text me or email me or message me, phone me. I don't think anybody uses the phone anymore, but so any of those ways. I think text is probably the fastest way, but any of those ways I'd be happy to answer all your questions and any kind of curiosity you have.